We work no further than 20 kilometers from the contact line. Many crises are still ahead. Even after victory, will be even more work to do. We evacuated people, did everything in a row, and found like-minded individuals. You just go and do something good. Grant money is taxpayers' money from the other countries. The main task for now is to win.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andriy, and this is the podcast Save Peace in UA. And today we have Mykyta as our guest. Hi.
Hello, Andriy.
Yes, we have known each other for a long time. But now we are in front of the camera for the first time. Too long ago, yes. And there are many things we can't talk about our student life. But student life is over, and there is adult life. And adult life has thrown us something cool thing, like volunteering. We probably didn't think it was necessary about 5 or 6 years ago. But now we see that it is one of the most important topics for the resistance of country, in my opinion.
I would disagree with you.
Okay, but why?
Because, in my case, the volunteering was started back in my student years.
That's interesting. Well, in mine, it's recent. And in your case, how many years ago?
From 2008, 13th of October, 2008.
Wait, and what happened that time?
Explosion on Mandrykovska Street.
Is it when the gas was exploded in the residential house?
Exactly. And then it was Euro 2012, volunteer preparation. And then I was already getting the hang of what volunteering is, and why it is very important for Ukraine in general.
It is two very different events, let's say. Euro Championship and the gas explosion.
Yes, but it was step by step.
South, this was the first time when...
This is when I first heard the word volunteer.
What were you doing there? At the explosion area?
At the explosion area? Okay, at the explosion area, we organized students. We was allowed to leave the educational process. At first, we didn't know what to do at all, like most volunteers, I would say. When something happens...
Yeah, they need to run somewhere, right?
Yes, they have to go somewhere to get involved, to help out, and so on. At first, well, I don't remember the number of this school, but there was a headquarter organized at the school area. We did everything, from washing the floor, moved different items, to setting up the computers, tighten the wires, organizing the field kitchen and so on. Then the process became systematic. And then the interesting situation was happened. Initially, about 10 people arrived there. The news about that quickly reached the universities. And at some wonderful moment, someone called me and said, "There are some people looking for you." I went outside, and there were about 300 people standing there. They said, "We are students, we are volunteers. What should we do?"
Wait, was it just a student organization or something else?
This was not just a student organization. Someone were from the student council, and someone just a student who found out that our university, our guys, were there. We started working. They said, "Well, there are already some contact there, so let's reach out to them." And it seems the youth management then, the city council directed them to me, gave my phone number, and told them they would explain what to do. I had no idea what to do at that moment when I saw 300 people. But we gradually organized the process with the administration. We had a dormitory, I think, of the Chemical Technological University. A gang was organized. They took all the humanitarian aid and systematized it.
A gang of volunteers, right? Sounds great.
Well, I only just thought about it now. Yeah, that's really cool. And then, when headquarters was established and working, then a group of verified daredevils has appeared. The State Emergency Service took us inside to help. We helped inside, pulled out certain things, and when the situation was stabilized, we could go in, servicing the field kitchen. I would say we were the hands-on helpers. We basically did everything in a row. It was almost 40 students. And that's interesting. The psychology students who participated in the burials and in communication with the affected people. And after that, they stopped being psychologists. They changed their profession. It was such a stress that they realized they chose the wrong profession.
Can I ask a question right away? But why? Why does volunteer work even appear in life? I understand my answer, but I'm curious. You studied there somehow. You could have not gone there. Could have not participated.
Okay, look, I was already in student self-governance then, and in student self-governance, you grow and do something for others. For students in particular, you are that layer between the administration and the students, and basically, it's about cultural stuff. Back then, you know, there were no stand-ups, there was KVN, and this kind of events. So you help organize everything, but you can influence the educational process, the right schedule, interaction with the administration, supporting some student who might drop out, but is socially important for the university's life.
But now you're saying...
I thought you were exactly like that.
Well, you're talking about student life now. And the explosion has nothing to do with being a student.
Why? I graduated in 2010, and it was 2008.
I mean, it doesn't affect the university itself, the student life itself.
We didn't go there as student self-government, with which...
That's what I'm talking about.
We just understood that we can do something to help. And it happened so that when the explosion occurred, we were in Kutsovolivka village, in a family-type children's home. We were involved in student government. Well, that's also volunteering.
I'm sorry, did you even study, or were you just like, oh, I'm just here to help?
There were problems with that, but I studied.
And what is your educational background?
Well, I graduated in enterprise economics specialist. After the fourth year, went to part-time study. Well, so to speak. They said, you are a really great guy, doing many good things, but now you're barely managing the fourth year. And the fifth seems like it will be tough. So you go to live your life, work for others, but not here. However, I continued to help in the student council for a long time after I stopped being the head. We helped however we could.
So where did you transfer your volunteer spirit after that? After the university?
Somehow it happened that I got involved in the processes of the preparations for Euro Championship 2012. These activities were started in 2010. Dnipro was supposed to host some of the games, but it didn't happen.
Unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately, but we serviced the Ukraine-England match that took place. We prepared volunteers and stewards who spoke English. These are international relations students from the university. They helped a lot. There was an instance when guests really had to contact the police, and in our police has only a few English-speaking officers. The volunteers, translators, helped resolve some issues. Once there was a situation with one of the Englishmen. He mixed up bags, took a bag of trash from the train, and threw away his bag with his things, documents, money, everything.
Seems he was already celebrating the victory, right?
Yeah, he was ready to celebrate. And well, in the end, they helped to translate, find, and return all the documents. This is just one of the number of examples of what they did. Volunteers generally just took them around the city, conducted excursions, helped with the accommodation, and so on. Taxi drivers didn't like us very much, to be honest, because at the airport we explained how to reach to the destination, and it wasn't possible to charge 5 kilometers for $200.
So you didn't earn money yourself and didn't let others either?
Well, something like that.
Volunteering jokes. So, how can you combine work, earning money, and volunteering without mixing them?
Well, overall, I really hope that soon there will be a development strategy for volunteering until the year 2030, with legislative opportunities, initiatives, and tools. Because volunteering should become, not even become, but get legal confirmation and regulation in general. So that, for example, you work somewhere in a company, and you can have a few days when they, for example, give you the additional leave, so to speak, or maybe even paid when you go to engage in corporate volunteering. Now it's up to organizations to decide. Either 5 or 10% of the salary we dump into a common fund from which we do some kind of help. But these are temporary moments, the one way of doing things. It may be something else, like the Soviet cleanup days that used to be held back in the day. I hope that in the future, it will be rehabilitation centers. You go, work, interact, or spend your free time systematically. You give up your time to teach someone, pass on knowledge, even help physically repair an orphanage. And the main thing is to do it. I was involved in orphanages. It was my first social activity in student government. And I realized that children don't need to be taken to some things as much as they need to be communicated with.
That's true.
They need attention and the transfer of knowledge and the opportunity to show that there may be something else, something different.
Yes, I have such a story. Seems we may have been on visiting it together in the past.
Yes, you remember, right?
We went somewhere, a student gathering, and went to see children with serious illnesses. And we arrived. Someone there handed out toys, took some photos, and then we left. I said, wait, where are we going? Let's maybe talk and play with the kids. We were allowed to do that. And we spent about 2 or 3 hours with them. And then I remember the children said, thank you so much for coming, spending time with us. Because others just bring something, take photos and leave.
This is exactly one of the important topics. With this kind of social effort is that they bring things, provide assistance. This is also important. But, it can raise bad habits in children. It raises the question, so what did you bring for me this time? Like, well, you have some little gifts for me. Okay, and where's the tablet? Is there any tablet for me? But you can bring knowledge, you can talk, you can ask, what do you want? For me, it's a very touching story. From my memories, there was a boy. Unfortunately, I don't remember his name, but at 6 years old, he was very good at math, yet he didn't truly understand it. That is, he was a gifted child whom you could explain something to, and he would understand it. The next day, you could go through the program, and he wouldn't remember anything again, and you'd explain something new. And once we almost amazingly got to the root. Even though I'm not very skilled in mathematics myself, I had a challenging history with higher mathematics exams at the university, and I managed to do it on the 17th attempt. It was challenging. Okay, it is what it is. But that doesn't mean I count poorly. Yes? Well, let's get back to this kid. He could have had a big chance in life if he were in a different environment, with different opportunities, in a different approach. This, by the way, is one of the motivations why I am engaged in social life at all. Now, talking about that, thanks to you, I realized that back then we had 9 orphanages that we were involved with. We regularly visited them, did different things. Actually, we didn't bring much of gifts, but sometimes we made some activities. I remember a cartoon, the Ice Age cartoon, had just appeared. We agreed with the administration of the orphanage that we would take the children to the cinema to see this cartoon. So we found a bus and took the kids to the cinema. They was worried that kids will have a chance to run away. But in the end, all went well. And then I realized that you receive more when you give more. And I understood that my problems in life are not problems at all.
Yes, it's true, yes.
Not that scale of a problem.
Regarding money, that is a painful point. There are a lot of volunteer and NGO movements, and there are many professions, a lot of support. Well, this support should somehow provide some money. Where do volunteers get money from? I'm always curious. I understand how it happens now. You open a fund or find a patron, but how was it before? It was more complicated before.
The same story. If you recall student self-governance, the university can be like a conditional state for you. Why student self-governance? It's a pilot that launched many social active people. Well, in your case, you were involved in cultural activities. This correspondingly influenced your life, providing some opportunities for development in business. You went through challenges during student times. Well, as you say, it's not worth mentioning. We won't tell everything about how we lived student life. Yes, it was vibrant, and sometimes it went a bit overboard. But it was a stage where you could hone your knowledge and skills, and then you come on camera, on the air. You come out prepared, skilled, and knowing what to do. And then you earn money in the future. It's student practice, let's say. Only it's about life. Not just painting a fence somewhere or a paper, but the discipline to see it through to the end, even if it's very difficult. But it gives you the opportunity to communicate with the administration. Imagine that it is a state. Deans who want to expel you, imagine that this is a legal system that hinders you. For example, your business, or vice versa, helps you. You can imagine this too. That's why student government is a model of adult life, when you can come and get new skills that you need while still studying.
This is the first time I've heard this idea, and I like it. I think, yes, I was wrong in my communications with the dean. Perhaps this could have helped me in my adult life? Maybe, I don't know.
100%. If we return to the social story, that is the issue when I talked about legislation, that there may be a matter of compensation when, for example, work compensates you for what you are doing.
May I ask a question right away? Is this a global practice? Is it worldwide? And are we just reaching it now?
We're getting there, but the global practice is. Okay, let's put it this way. Until the year 2022, these may be inaccurate social numbers, but they are close to reality. So, approximately, around that. The involvement of people in volunteer work on social issues was, well, maybe around 10%. Back in 2014. The range in European countries is on average from 30 to 70%. Almost every person is involved in some group, some self-governance, solving community problems, or helping others much more than we had. A lot. At the beginning of the year 2022, it became clear that roughly 60% turned into volunteers automatically, even if you were just helping neighbors leave. Because there was, well, did you heard a story that one man had 3 cars? He could only leave with one, and he left the other 2 or 3 cars in Bucha, right on the street, open, with the keys.
Yes, I heard that story. True values.
I don't remember the details, but I heard that he got all the cars back, actually. What is really amazing, that he said, well, I can't take them anyway, but they'll save someone. He was pleased that it became true.
I am curious, there is a trend now that people have started criticizing volunteers. Because, well, you know which opinion I mean. Like, well, you're taking something for yourselves. You are earning there, aren't you?
I am sure that there are many unscrupulous volunteers right now.
And how to check them? How can an ordinary person understand that in front of them is some fraudster, some very bad person?
Usually you can see it, I guess. It's visible as for me.
Me as a volunteer have encountered such people time after time. I trusted. And a few times I was set up.
Okay, I've got your point. Look, when regulation appears, it will start working. There's an actively developing process. There are criminal cases against volunteers. And not all of them can be bad because they could have messed up. Look, remember 2022?
Yes. Everything was happening at the speed of light.
Yes, exactly. People were collecting using private bank accounts. People were collecting cash. It's clear that they might not have documented everything correctly. Receipts were lost. People didn't consider that there might be some responsibility tomorrow for having done a good deed. And consequently, they started forming public organizations, charitable foundations, without really understanding how it works. They needed to legalize. When it became clear that this was for the long haul, not just 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to have a long fight. It became clear very quick. We have to be prepared for a long run. As of September 2022, 4,500 new organizations were registered. Could you imagine that? The majority did not understand at all what they had registered. And then they started having problems. They began operate officially, receive humanitarian aid, distribute, work with documents, sometimes not according to the rules at all. Due to lack of experience, obviously. This was the time of establishment. Many of the problems rised because there were no experience. I'm not sure we have to judge them for this. Therefore, accordingly, this is a separate issue as to why legislation is needed, some issues of the time of amnesty, and so on.
Why did it take until the 3rd year to figure this out? Honestly, I don't understand.
Okay, look, we have to admit, the state doesn't care, in general. Huge respect and honor to the great and cool stakeholders who helped the volunteer movement in Ukraine. They will now actually support this legislative initiative, but it is shaped by the public sector. It clicked a long time ago, but we are still burdened with a lot of time. If our activity initially was focused on firefighting, like urgent evacuation, aid procurement, searching for the like-minded individuals, and then distribution to the hotspots, efforts to turn this coordination work into some sort of system, so that with one grandmother or grandfather, when there is a request for evacuation, not 5 volunteers would come, but just 1. This was a very important optimization, meaning we went through this long process of formation. Now we are at a stage where we can move to more systematic operations. Unfortunately, it's not so slow. But in terms of the world history of volunteer development, we have gone through 50 years of evolution in 3 years. And we now have something to show, some experience to share, and generally why we do it this way.
If we are going to talk about the present, you and your foundation, a bit about yourself and the work of the foundation, and your work in the foundation. Let's discuss these 3 questions, okay? I know this is a setup from my end, but let's try.
Step by step, right? Well,
Yes.
let's probably briefly cover why and when we were established. What was our goals and what was changed?
Go ahead.
Outside the window is a year 2022. February 2022, the war started. I mean the full-scale invasion, not the war. Because the war has been going on since 2014. It's very important for everyone to remember that it has been going on since 2014. These are just full-scale processes that started against us, more global ones. Like everyone, we started doing whatever we could. Some were in panic, others, on the contrary, went somewhere to take action. And of course, everyone was at the military recruitment center in queues, signing up anywhere. We were in Kharkiv and Saltivka, evacuating people. At some point, people and resources started reaching out to us. From the people I've known for a long time. I didn't know they worked in international organizations, in some structures. People came forward saying, now the aid will be linked to you across the Dnipro. Sometimes I didn't understood. Who are these people? Who advised me? But for them, I became a trusted person. People started providing resources. We found vehicles there, found fuel, and after some time of active work, we realized that. In Kharkiv, there was a very interesting team, a vast variety of volunteers. And when we brought products there, evacuated people from there, we got to know them, provided them with fuel on the start. A volunteer caravan as a project was started there, in Kharkiv. This is a unique story. Clearly, there will be separate podcasts to showcase this story. A powerful story of social resistance and help. They did a titanic job. They evacuated thousands, tens of thousands of people, over 12,000 people. I might be mistaken in the numbers. It should be even more. They evacuated through the Pecheneg Dam from the occupied territory. A large group of cars gathered, more than 20 and sometimes even more. Everyone arrived. There was a school in Pechenegi as a meeting point at current time. This is in Kharkiv region. There was an agreement that people were allowed to leave via the dam, by walking only. It was understood that the military and police were not immediately allowed on the dam.
Red Cross, right?
Yes. The Red Cross was also there, and we approached in this caravan, drove up to the dam in cars, then groups of volunteers got out by walking to the side of occupied territory. Took the people, took the elderly, who are inclusive and bedridden. Bags needed to be carried, animals, children. This whole story is just filled with pain, suffering. They carried, transferred, dragged people into cars. Then these cars would drive to a safer place, which, unfortunately, was being shelled. They drove to a school where filtration was an issue. There were stabilization measures and the distribution of people, deciding who would go where. There was already a buses from the administration. They were taking people to Kharkiv, settling them there and so on. But there was this tension in evacuating people, and some volunteers were captured. Many volunteers did not return from Mariupol, for example. There were groups of volunteers who evacuated people from Mariupol, and it took about 1.5 to 2 weeks, sometimes 3. A round trip from Dnipro. Not all people returned. Many volunteers died during the war and were injured. In the future, this video podcast will feature stories about how volunteer insurance has now emerged. But it was not the state care, it is precisely the public sector. So we are moving to a stage where, from firefighting, we turned to a stable, systematic, sustainable organizations. And now they transform into consortiums that can cover the whole process. For example, a consortium of organizations dealing with rehabilitation. It's about consolidation, more involvement of the systematic donor resources for projects, not just private ones. IDP issues, for example. This should be a consortium association that interacts with international donors, local authorities, with the national, all-Ukrainian, central government, and directly with those structures related to internal displacement to solve problems systematically. This is a solution. Then it becomes a voice that can come and offer something to the state, like, here is the concept, these are the rules, this is the way we can help. We propose to run by such protocols. And these processes now happening. I don't want to talk about that too much. We created this podcast to showcase everything.
And you avoided my question again.
Okay, sorry. Let's get back to the specific questions.
Okay, let's get back. When did you establish the foundation?
It was founded on June 3rd, 2022, because there was already a need for it.
How many people were with you?
Not with me. With us. Because for me, it is important to a point that the fund has 2 founders. And I am not the only person who started that. Our issue is not the number of people, because the mission of the organization is to support the development of the other NGOs. In addition to the ongoing projects that we are engaged in, our general task is not to make the foundation super large, super expensive, super huge. I prefer to have as many local independent stakeholders as possible, because this way we can build stronger delivery chains. This is why we help to other organizations to grow. First and foremost, to become large, impressive, and systematic, and to also collaborate with each other, implement projects together, coordinate, and develop.
Listen, if you are a good person, you will click like this, subscribe, hit the bell, and you will always be with us. And we will be with you. So here's the question. What is the largest donation that has come to the organization?
A donation or a grant?
Make a donation.
Donation to the organization? Well, the largest that reached the organization. I'll be honest, I don't know how to collect donations. When someone has asked for help, then I have to somehow come up with the response using even own money for that. So, I don't know. Really. Maybe it was something around, maybe around $7,000, but that's definitely the maximum from one person. I meant this is a donation from the private person. If to talk about the international organization or a direct donor organization, then the amounts are absolutely different, because they helped gather a large number of people and then sending goods or funds directly to you for specific activities.
Okay, and what about the biggest grant?
Well, at the moment, today, it's probably about $200,000.
That's a lot.
True, but it's important to understand that this covers a whole programs, for example.
I understand, systematically and for some period.
Each time they approve it again and provide it to you. It can be from 60,000 to 100.
And when you write a grant application, or your organization or your team, how much time does it take? In general, I mean this application process? Because, well, I also work with grants, and I understand that I can write one grant application in one day, and ones I wrote with an accountant, well, about a week. It's not that easy.
Well, depending on what you need to fill, if it's a depth of a field you haven't done before, of course, it will take some time. You initially write a concept. With inspiration might come in an hour or 2, or it can take a night. If you have to write a lot, it's a time when almost no one bothers you. That's when you can work at night. We work at night here. In a night, you can write a grant application, a concept, but usually it's a whole team works on it. Well, a week can be okay, I think. But sometimes it can take 2 days if you can quickly gather and describe everything you need. At the Institute of Volunteers, some organizations write a grant application from scratch for 2 to 3 days, and in a month, they receive their first grants, ranging from 10 to 104,000. I think it was the largest grant so far, because the time of the event coincided with the time of the submission. Lucky coincidence.
How to help those who need a grant writing assistance?
NGO space. You just need to become a resident. That is what you need to do. And we will help.
Well, they turn to you and you're helping, right?
Yes, but what is very important? We do not do the job instead of them. They have to write the grant application themselves. We can help to choose where to apply and so on. We help to finalize it so that they don't come back to us tomorrow. Well, so to speak, we will teach and show them how to write the application in a correct way.
You are doing a really good and valuable job.
Thank you. It is very important to understand that today we did not mention a large number of names and surnames of those who do this, because they will be in the next podcasts and you will get to know them.
Again, you are talking about the others.
And I really want to. These are incredible people, and not a single project associated with me or my activities would be possible without them.
Can you now talk about, so to speak, the most notable projects of your foundation? Let's mention, for example, 3 of them that you are proud of.
I am definitely proud of the emergency direction. It's emergency response. In this project, we work no further than 20 kilometers from the contact line, where the front line is. We cover this area thanks to the resources given to us by the international partners. In particular, we are now actively supported in this matter by Liev Schreiber, the Blue Check Foundation. Liev Schreiber is a Ukrainian, or rather, an American film actor of Ukrainian descent, a Hollywood star, who advocates for us very seriously in the United States, at the legislative level. And, in particular, he fundraised for Ukraine himself, with his colleagues and his friends. He fundraises money that helps here a lot. They support many projects in Ukraine. They support water, hygiene. Basic survival means survival kits for those who do not want to or cannot be evacuated from those areas. And here is a debatable question. I would actually evacuate people whether they want it or not. But according to all international humanitarian rules, if there are children, I cannot take them out without parental consent, unless there is a special sanction for this. When Bakhmut started to be evacuated, it was a forced type of evacuation, meaning whether the parents wanted it or not, they were taken along with the children. But that happens rarely. And I have to say, I'm sorry. I want the children to survive this war, and they are not to blame if their parents are a bit wacky. This way, we help and support. And this personal contact with these people, and the opportunity to communicate sometimes works, and people are agreed to leave.
Well, perhaps in the future, I hope this issue will somehow be legislatively regulated, because I also dealt with evacuation when the child is small. He must live and not hear this horror. But parents are like, oh no, everything's fine, everything's fine. Well, okay, that's another topic. Please let's get back to your story now.
This will be another video podcast about the psychological traumas of volunteers, how to deal with people's ingratitude when you're volunteering, helping there, and so on. This directly relates to the topic.
Okay, the first project is clear. Now let's talk about 2 more.
Okay, emergency is the first one. The second is definitely extremely important. This is the Institute of Volunteers. Actually, we understood that the grant money is taxpayers' money from other countries, like, for example, USAID, the Swiss embassy, which has now supported us. I will mention it in the next topic. So what is important to understand? Resources. They exist. But you have to know how to work with this.
Let me clear this up. To understand the Institute.
The Institute is simply such a general idea. The project where you can study and gain relevant knowledge on how to work as a third sector. It includes several topics. How to choose the type of registration, for example. How to apply for funding. How to report. And other valuable information. It is a 4-day program. There have already been 7 of these. More than 87 organizations and 137 people have been trained in this way.
Let's make it clear. Well, not everyone is as smart as you. Someone might be thinking, what? The Institute? What institute? Why would I go there? Can you explain the purpose? So that we could motivate more people to gain relevant knowledge.
Briefly, in 4 days, we help people systematize their activities in the organization. Get the right vision for the grant field, as we call it. It's about how the third sector organized in general. Humanitarian law as particular. Where do resources come from? How to use it? We help with the better organization for more efficiency, not just transporting humanitarian aid from point A to point B, for example, but how to ensure that it goes from the chain, from evacuating a person to their actual employment, the entire life cycle. And accordingly, we teach grant writing, that is, writing grant applications. But it's very important. We don't just teach how to write correctly to get money, because the donor, for sure, when reading, understands. Everyone in grant applications writes how wonderful volunteers they are. And it's the truth. They are incredible. But there's not a word about impact, for example. But actually, the impact is what will determine if your application will be approved. You can simply feed people. But impact is when you show that we will solve the issue so that people don't need to be fed tomorrow.
No need like that.
And you don't have to give away fish. And this is about consistency, about sustainability, and about development. So we can say that if people have joined the Volunteer Institute, it is a certain marker that they can be entrusted with resources, because we have provided them with certain knowledge and skills. And not only that, but we will support them organisationally, so that they can do their job. For the donor, it was a good marker in 2022 when they didn't know who to give aid to. They wanted to give, but they couldn't, because these newborn organisations didn't know how to operate. We were sure that if we will invest our time and train them, then these organisations can turn into serious structures, and some of them have become so. I am sure that some of them will be on this video podcast with amazing stories. So I encourage you to keep watching. This is a pilot project for us, to simply tell these stories of the third sector in Ukraine. Okay, let's go further. Then they can turn into incredible things, alliances, projects, and it will be their merit. But we just help them with knowledge. The third project is NGO Space, which we opened in Dnipro on April 19th, 2024. This is a very cool story. I love it. Let me tell you more about it. What is the essence of the NGO Space project and how it was started? This is a space in Dnipro, which is divided into two parts. This project implemented in consortium, with Save Peace in UA Fund, with the organisation of the psychological community and crisis psychological assistance. And one part of this is the Crisis Centre PRO Live, where they provide help to people affected by the war. This can include veterans, widows, children, those in need of psychological support. There is a very serious project. The team is about 75 crisis psychologists who are well educated and can generally act as mobile groups where it's needed. And the other part of the space is the NGO space, which is opened for residents. The residents will appear in these video podcasts as well. We now supported by the Embassy of Switzerland. We provide a free space where they can hold their events, their trainings. We offer our programs, educational trainings, and events that they can conduct for other organisations. This is a place where they meet, network, help each other, and we can expertly support them with our team of professionals who help them grow, reach a new level. If, for example, their maximum grants were up to $300,000, now our task is for the consortium to receive over 1 million or 5 in the future.
How to become a participant? Since not everyone knows this space, and they are like, oh, I'm interested. Is it like an application or a submission?
It's easy to find us in social networks. Feel free to text us there or via the email, and we will offer you a short questionnaire to fill. About what is your goals? What is your motivation? Who are you in general? Then, if we see that we can help, and you can certainly be useful to others, we will reach out to you and propose to become our resident.
Have there been cases when they're refused? Well, we looked. Your organization seems not really helpful. You guys are cool, but no.
Yes, it was. There were naming problems, or open data research, shows bad results. There are many possibilities to check the organization. And you see, if there are, for example, any court histories or even criminal proceedings involving members of this organization, we refuse. This is why we also teach this at the Volunteer Institute. And if the name also includes something political, in the name of the organization, it's a red flag. It's clear that third sector have nothing to do with politics.
Okay, that's interesting. Volunteering is off the politics.
Politics outside of volunteering, 100%. Actually, it is connected to the reason why we launched this podcast project with at least 50 series, to talk about those organizations who are incredibly cool, but only a few people know about them. And secondly, there are organizations that live in their own thematic bubbles and do not know about other organizations that could be useful to each other. It's a small online networking, so that people will learn, for example, about rehabilitation. People who might need rehabilitation can learn about this organization, and donors can discover new organizations to work with. Our task is to tell incredibly cool stories about these absolutely amazing, motivated people, so that they might share this information, possibly with the entire world. There will be contacts and details for each organization in the description. Similarly, if you want, reach out to us on our social networks. You can fill out a form. There is a chance to become our residents. We will take you into NGO space. When we invited people to participate in the Volunteer Institute course, we selected the exact number of people for the spots we had. So, for the last one we held in November, if I'm not mistaken, there was over 160 applications for 24 spots. There are very many who want to get in, but physically it was not possible to accept them all. And these people, these organizations that reach out to us, they are so different and from different areas. We constantly organize networking and mix them so that these people will have a chance to create something powerful together. Find like-minded people and unite for bigger results. When you say something like create some sort of register, usually people mean that the authorities should make some kind of register. There is a register of volunteers, but it's just for a basic volunteer status.
Well, it's more of an inspiring story. It's about reporting, it's about money, and I mean the connection.
Even the NGO space. How was it created? The embassy. We won a grant from the Swiss embassy in Ukraine, but the grant does not cover rental payments, repair works, and other expenses. And then we were supported by OKCO, which is now covering rental and the utility costs. The company OKCO is a fuel company, and we just have a certain stable history of interaction in evacuation efforts. By my modest calculations, thanks to the fuel they distributed to the public sector, volunteers, and administrations, well, they have contributed to at least 50,000 evacuated people. That is 50 lives saved thanks to this company, which initially provided this fuel for free. But these abilities was limited, so someone has to pay for it. Sometimes it was covered by donations, other volunteers, and so on. Company offers a large discount for the NGOs who buys and distribute fuel to volunteers. Gives this fuel to everyone involved in volunteering. There are over 300 organizations engaged in evacuations, humanitarian missions, and so on. There will be a lot of them in this podcast. They will talk about how it all came together.
Let's talk about specific things. You encountered something like Kherson.
You mean the flooding, right?
Yes.
Yes. There was a lot of work during that flooding. Evacuations, food delivery, rescuing animals. We needed pumps, boats, everything in the world. It was a challenging time for all volunteering sector in Ukraine.
I'm not talking about the city. I'm talking about the situation that has developed there. And you have helped a lot. I know that you helped a lot. And I want you to tell more. Because I know many stories from this period. I mean, when the dam broke and the city of Kherson faced a huge disaster. You were already there, a few hours after that. Do you have a teleport?
Yes, we rushed to Kherson immediately and arrived in a few hours to start gathering needs and run to organize deliveries. I think I helped there, not more than everyone else. Maybe the only additional benefit I could bring was that I managed to quickly connect the volunteers with the administration, so it helped to organize people care and other work. It was a good example of why we do networking. When you arrive, you see a large number of organizations and volunteers who want to help. And such a thing as coordination becomes very important in this case. For example, boats may no longer be needed here, but they are needed elsewhere. And very important is to coordinate this. Now imagine that you are, for instance, the Deputy Governor of Kherson region for humanitarian issues.
Sounds not bad.
Not bad, right? But it's an extremely complicated situation for this person. Being a governor in current situation. I avoid political issues. Being a governor somewhere in frontline area, it is tough and hard, systematic job. Most likely, yes, systematic work. And when you are responsible for the lives of people on the frontline city, the really dangerous territory, it's an entirely different challenges and situations and risks. If you have some kind of force majeure happening, so to speak, force majeure, then you need the support of the same public figures, volunteers who come and support. But you can't talk to 100 people in the same time, right? This has to be well organized. And when you are on the ground, you see so many leaders around whom you can unite everyone. The group on the boats, the group with water, and so on. Then you coordinate with the administration. Introduce from 3 to 5 person. Now it's much easier and faster to manage. Therefore, there are an incredible number of cool organizations was in Kherson. Someone even lived there, and they will be in this video podcast. Many crises are still ahead of us. Even after victory, there will be even more work to do. But now the task is to win. Yes? Very important, as for me, to mention about the corporate responsibility. Support of the volunteer community, it means when you send your staff for special trainings, they can then handle crisis situations on the ground. Like PTSD from some triggers, you know? It will be a lot of situations when the help will be needed immediately. During the evacuation, for example, as well. Especially the evacuation of militaries. It is essential to speak Ukrainian with them. Do you know why? It is highly important.
Well, I know why, but I'll pretend I don't. And why, do let me know.
If a soldier is awake and don't know where he is being taken, he is injured. The situation is difficult, and if he hears the Russian language, it may seem that he has been captured and is being taken by enemies. The weapon is nearby, and you can blow everyone up in shock or self-defense. And, unfortunately, there have been such cases. And we need to understand and work with this, that people, volunteers, can also go crazy. The mental health is extremely important, because they have seen a lot. There is an organization called On the Shield who evacuate our fallen heroes. You can only imagine how many things they will see that you will never forget. And learning to cope with this is very important. Now, I am personally coping well with it, but I cannot guarantee that after the war is over, it will somehow make itself felt. I realize this and tell everyone that you can now be good. Think that you cannot stop. Think that you should not stop as long as you have resources. But it's a mistake. There are people who call me an energizer. Some associate me with a honey badger. Well, that's kind of funny video. The meme, you know.
We will definitely include it.
There is no need to show it here, especially with sound, okay? It's about when you get hit, but you still stand up and move on.
This is my childhood in the backyard.
Our childhood in the backyard, yeah. It's an incredible miracle that we survived in our neighborhoods. Yeah? We trained character, and now we need to use this character.
I want you to tell me about yourself. I realize that there are a lot of people who help and are cool. But damn, I notice that many volunteers have this stuff. They say, I don't think I do well enough. The others are so good. They are so good. And I am regular ones.
This is a super phenomenon of Ukrainian volunteerism.
So, tell us about yourself and how awesome you are.
My strength is in uniting people. This is what I am doing all the time. Searching for resources and helping them. And this is not some kind of super pilot training. I just explain how I find communication with administrations, with businesses, with central authorities, with volunteers, with international organizations. How I manage to gather everyone in one group to solve some issues.
And what do you think this position is called? What would you call yourself?
In general, it's a troubleshooter, I guess. Maybe communicator. I don't know.
I'll pretend that I understand about troubleshooting.
It is leader who solves problems, such as business, humanitarian, etc. It's like when in business, you live in a constant state of solving problems. Well, like, you don't fall into depression, you don't go crazy. You just solve the issue that has arisen.
Wait, but you are a human. Haven't you had any force majeures regarding mental issues?
Personally?
Yes.
Okay, I think I'm stable enough. Even after some stressful situation, after shelling or something, I can stay calm some way. But a lot of volunteers are not. They are pressured by huge stress of horrible situations. They see a lot of struggling. There are many stories of burnouts, depressions, and so on.
And how about you with this?
I'm holding on. My wife is a psychologist, so I'm good enough.
Hold on, then.
I do. Yeah. Sometimes people ask me, how do you not lose your mind? How do you relax? Rest is very important, and the most important rest is sleep. It rarely happens, but time after time, you need to have a good sleep. And I think I'm definitely lose my feelings. I guess I need to cry and relive the deaths, situations, shellings, and realize that I survived, and thank God.
You don't keep it inside, man, okay?
No, not at all. Well, I don't care if people see. I can be weak, I can cry, release stress, but I allow myself to always be calmly focused. That is the priority. To achieve results and success, you need to be tense and focused. There is a direct dependence. The calmer I am, the less bad decisions I do. The golden mean between emotions and high workload. You have to make decisions calmly and realize them. But to do so, you need to think through options, scenarios. What should you do next? You have to be absolutely calm. So, dear volunteers, please do not hesitate to visit psychologists, because our cuckoo may easily fly away.
It would be cool to make a rehab retreat camp.
And they already exist.
Just for volunteers, right?
Yes, exactly. But there are very few of them, unfortunately.
In 10 years, volunteering in the country, what do you think it will be like?
Volunteering should evolve to the point where, even at the legislative level, there is an approach that encourages people to that. If you're studying at school or university and you're doing volunteering, you get hours of experience, or some additional points in the educational institution, some other incentives.
And close the quarter with the additional points, yes?
Well, maybe. It would be funny. It shouldn't become that you use social work as an excuse to help yourself finish university, but it definitely should be an additional bonus. Well, let's step back a bit. You was asking, why am I awesome? I think mainly because I am not shy to approach people, and I am okay with the fact that they might send me far away.
Yeah, but it's normal.
That's the main thing. I don't get upset about that. I'm good at handling rejection. But if I was refused, well, it's no big deal. They might even lose
Well,
more.
when they immediately refuse with no feedbacks. Why? What we do wrong? It's kind of hard.
Well, look, I am very grateful to another partner who supports our space. The NGO Space. This is Volodymyr Nosov, the CEO and the founder of Whitebit. Primarily, it is a company, but it is most known as cryptocurrency exchange. This is one of their projects. It is a large European cryptocurrency exchange with an owner of Ukrainian descent. And they supported us with the renovation. Nova Ukraine Fund was supported us with furniture, which was highly required. It is important for me to accelerate humanitarian responses and development processes of NGOs, especially the active ones, to help to attract resources. Today, we did not mention volunteers who dealing with military matters. That's a separate huge world, and few people talk about it. I won't get ahead of myself, but this year, many interesting things will emerge in this context in Ukraine.
Let me tell you this about military aid, because I am involved with several funds that deal only with military matters. It's a very complicated thing because we, for example, are people who were not in the context at all. About the war, I mean. I understand that the war has been since 2014. Some think it started even earlier. It's part of the cultural heritage. And only in 2022, I began to communicate with the military. Before that, I was involved in the evacuation of visually impaired people, in the evacuation of children since 2014. And well, who is it easier for you to work with? Representatives of funds, volunteers, or representatives of the government and administration? I understand that these are two different questions, but
These are good questions. All people are very different. It's not connected to what they are representing. As I am well skilled in networking, I introduce people to each other. And then something can happen, or not. And if they are a good people, if I like them, I clearly see that they can be useful to each other in some way. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. I feel comfortable with everyone. It's just maybe another ability I have. I consider it a good advantage. And, for example, the international organization is asking for my recommendations. Like, we would like to support this person. What can you say about him? Is there any of recommendations? I'm speaking honestly. I don't like this person. I find this person absolutely ridiculous, or even vile. But at the moment, this person is really doing something valuable that should be supported. I believe that my personal attitude to a person does not have to influence the beneficiaries. That is very important for me.
I understand.
I may not like this person. I can deal with them later. And even if I have direct confrontation with this person, I have enough sense to say, we will sort out who is who tomorrow. But today, let's do the job, okay? because people should not suffer from any emotional situations or some sort of internal problems and so on.
I liked it. Who is who?
Who is who? We will figure it out.
Dear audience, we want you not only to watch us, but also to grow with us. So if you write a cool comment that Nikita likes, he will contact you and arrange a separate consultation for you. You will be able to talk to him about anything, because he is a professional. Right, Nikita?
I hope so.
So write a comment.